The Silent Vanguard. The Coalition flagship Eternal Dominion sailed through the obsidian void, a testament to 7 millennia of uncontested power. High Admiral Kazant stood with 6 appendages clasped behind his back, compound eyes reflecting the stars as they passed. Each flicker of light represented another world under Coalition control, another civilization shaped by their wisdom, or erased by their judgment. Status on the Neri cleansing. Kazant's voice, translated through the ship's sophisticated audio matrix, retained its natural clicking undertones. Lieutenant Commander Voss, a reptilian Syrinx whose scales shifted from blue to green in the ambient light, approached with practiced deference. Complete. Admiral. Population centers sterilized as ordered. Atmospheric compositional change initiated. Estimated time until planet becomes uninhabitable for native species, 26 hours. Resistance. Minimal. As predicted, their defense systems were rudimentary. They never saw the toxins until symptoms manifested. Voss's thin lips curled slightly. The human observers have filed the expected diplomatic protests. Kazant's mandibles twitched with what might have been amusement. And what of Earth's grand gestures this time? Another strongly worded message. Perhaps a trade embargo they can't afford to maintain. They've recalled their ambassador and closed their embassies across Coalition space. Voss's tone remained clinical, but a note of confusion slipped through, different from previous patterns. Interesting. Kazant turned his gaze back to the viewport. The humans have been members of our galactic community for nearly 40 cycles. They know the rules. Species that cannot contribute meaningfully to our collective advancement must make way for those who can. He clicked his mandibles dismissively. The Neri were given adequate time to improve. Their continued focus on artistic pursuits rather than technological advancement sealed their fate. What Kazant didn't mention, what only the Inner Council knew, was that the Neri had developed something far more dangerous than weapons. They had developed questions about the Coalition's authority. Worse still, they had begun asking other species these questions. Monitor Earth's communications, Kazant ordered. If they deviate further from established patterns, inform me immediately. Of course, Admiral, Voss replied, retreating with a respectful bow. Alone again, Kazant contemplated the human problem. Such a curious species, physically unimpressive, technologically middling, yet somehow they had survived 40 cycles of Coalition evaluation. Their propensity for rapid adaptation made them valuable test subjects, if nothing else. Their continued compliance, despite obvious moral objections to Coalition practices, had been a fascinating study in pragmatism. What Kazant couldn't know, what no one in the Coalition could possibly suspect, was that humanity had never been complying at all. Commander Elena Reyes stood on the observation deck of the unmarked vessel Silent Reach, hidden in the shadow of a gas giant 3 systems away from the slaughter. Earth's insignia was nowhere to be found aboard the ship. Officially, neither the vessel nor its crew existed. Transmission from Earth Command, encrypted channel, announced Lieutenant Commander Park, her expression grim behind the blue light of her console. Send it to my quarters, Reyes replied, her voice steadied despite the fury coursing through her veins. In the privacy of her sparse cabin, Reyes activated the secure terminal. Fleet Admiral Okonkwo's weathered face appeared, the lines around his eyes deeper than they had been a week ago. Neri casualties, he asked without preamble. Estimated 98% of the population, Reyes answered, her tone clinical despite the horror the numbers represented. Coalition ships are maintaining quarantine around the planet to prevent evacuation. Okonkwo closed his eyes briefly. Operation Sanctuary. We extracted approximately 3,000 Neri before the Coalition arrival. Admiral. Mostly children, cultural leaders, and a genetic cross-section for species preservation. They're en route to Haven Station. Haven Station. A massive habitat hidden in an artificially maintained pocket dimension created by Earth's most classified technological achievement. For 35 years, humanity had been quietly rescuing the condemned, building a sanctuary for species the Coalition deemed expendable. Good. Okonkwo nodded. And our other preparations? The Artemis fleet is in position. Defensive systems are deployed and operational across all human colonies. Phase 3 is complete. A tense silence filled the connection. The Coalition believes we're retreating into isolation out of moral outrage, Okonkwo finally said. They expect us to sulk for a few months, then return to the table with our tails between our legs. They've never understood us, Rise observed, nor bothered to try. Our apparent technological inferiority made us too uninteresting to study properly. The Admiral's face hardened. The Inner Council has scheduled another cleansing. The Everin system. Rise felt her blood run cold. Population. 11 billion. Her fist clenched at her side. Timeline. 2 weeks. And Elena, Okonkwo leaned closer to the screen. They're using the cleansing to test new bioweapons. Weapons specifically designed to work on human physiology. The implication was clear. Earth was next on the Coalition's list. The President has made the decision, Okonkwo continued. We're activating Operation Reckoning. You have authorization to proceed with Phase 4. Phase 4. The words hung between them like a death knell. For the Coalition, not for humanity. Understood, Admiral. Rise straightened her shoulders. When? The Coalition Inner Council convenes in 72 hours on Centauri Station. Be ready. The connection ended, leaving Rise alone with the weight of what was to come. For nearly 4 decades, humanity had been playing a dangerous game, appearing compliant while systematically embedding themselves into every aspect of Coalition operations. Their seeming docility had allowed humans unprecedented access they had used to document every atrocity, map every weakness, and prepare for the day when they would reveal exactly what humanity was capable of. That day had finally arrived. The Neri survivors huddled in the sterile processing center aboard Haven Station, their crystalline skin dulled with grief. Dr. Samira Kazemi moved among them, administering comfort along with medical care. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, she had spent years studying the unique biology of every species the Coalition had targeted. They're stabilizing physically, she reported as Commander Reyes entered the facility. But the psychological trauma. Reyes nodded, watching as a Neri child, no larger than a human toddler, curled protectively around a small crystal disk. What's that? She asked softly. The heart songs, Dr. Kazemi explained. Their cultural archive. Every Neri carries one from birth, adding their own stories and songs throughout their lives. This child's parents transferred their heart songs to her before our extraction team had to leave. Reyes approached carefully, crouching beside the young Neri. The child's faceted eyes regarded her with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. Hello, Reyes said, the translation matrix converting her words to the musical tones of the Neri language. My name is Elena. The child's crystalline appendages trembled slightly. Are you going to make us go away too? The translated voice was heartbreakingly small. No, Reyes answered firmly. We're going to make sure no one can ever hurt you again. She meant it. Humanity had watched silently for too long, saving what they could while gathering evidence and building strength. The Coalition had mistaken their restraint for weakness, their strategic patience for cowardice. That misunderstanding would cost them everything. Reyes stood, turning to Dr. Kazemi. How many species do we have in Haven now? 28, the doctor replied. Over 40 million souls who would otherwise have been erased from history. 40 million lives against the trillions the Coalition had extinguished. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. Proof that humanity had never accepted the Coalition's atrocities, even when they appeared to comply with them. The Everin delegation has arrived, Dr. Kazemi added. They're meeting with Admiral Okonkwo now. The Everins, next on the Coalition's cleansing list. Unlike the Neri, they were being given a chance humanity had spent decades preparing to offer. I need to return to the Silent Reach, Ray said. Phase 4 begins in 48 hours. Elena, Dr. Kazemi caught her arm. What happens after? The coalition spans thousands of systems. Even with all our preparations, Reyes met her gaze steadily. We're not trying to defeat them, Samara. We're trying to expose them. The coalition maintains power because most of its member species don't know what happens to those who fall out of favor. We're going to make sure they can't look away anymore. As she departed Haven Station, Reyes received a priority communication from Captain Daniels of the stealth cruiser Nemesis. Commander, we've completed infiltration of Centauri Station's systems, he reported. Coalition security remains unaware. The kill switch is in place. Any complications? Reyes asked, striding toward her ship. None. Coalition tech security remains laughably outdated. They've never needed to improve it because no one's been able to challenge them for millennia. Daniels allowed himself a grim smile. Until now. Maintain position and stand by. Reyes ordered. The next 48 hours are critical. As her shuttle approached the silent reach, Reyes gazed out at the stars. The same stars that had witnessed countless genocides conducted with bureaucratic precision. For too long, humanity had been gathering evidence, building strength, and waiting for the right moment. The coalition believed they were the apex predators of the galaxy. They were about to learn that humanity had merely been holding its breath. And now, they were about to exhale. The reckoning dawned. The Grand Council chamber of Centauri Station gleamed with ostentatious opulence. 7 species represented the ruling elite of the coalition, their physiologies as diverse as their territories were vast. What united them was power, the unquestioned authority to determine which civilizations would flourish and which would disappear. High Admiral Kazant occupied the most prominent position, his carapace adorned with ceremonial markings denoting centuries of loyal service. Around him, representatives from the Syrinx, Volith, Trasari, Curvin, Melithor, and Zinthari arranged themselves according to ancient protocols. This emergency session will now commence, announced the Volith Arbiter, his gelatinous form pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. Our agenda concerns recent communicative anomalies from the human territories. Kazant's mandibles clicked impatiently. The humans are expressing moral outrage over the Neri cleansing. Nothing unexpected. This differs from previous patterns, countered Syrinx Representative Threll. They've withdrawn all diplomatic personnel. Their trade vessels have returned to Earth space. Even their tourist ships have vanished. Good riddance, rumbled the massive Curvin delegate. Their constant ethical objections were tiresome. Perhaps the Dresseri representative, a willowy figure with iridescent skin, leaned forward. Yet we must acknowledge their integration with numerous coalition systems. Many of our member worlds have become reliant on human software architecture. A situation we've permitted due to their harmless nature. Kazant dismissed. Their technologies are convenient but hardly essential. The chamber's lighting suddenly flickered, an unprecedented occurrence in the station's 700-year history. The delegates exchanged puzzled glances. Station control, the Arbiter commanded. Explain this malfunction. No response came. Instead, every display surface in the chamber simultaneously activated, showing the same image. A human in military dress, her dark hair pulled back severely, her expression resolute. Greetings, Coalition Inner Council, the human said, her voice calm but unyielding. I am Commander Elena Reyes of Earth's Special Response Division. Kazant rose, outrage evident in his posture. This is an unacceptable breach of protocol. Security. His command went unanswered. Your security forces cannot hear you, Reyes continued. In fact, no one outside this chamber can hear you. This meeting is now between us. How dare you? Began the Curvin delegate, only to fall silent as the images on the screens changed. Now they displayed the Neri homeworld as seen from orbit, a green-blue jewel slowly turning gray as coalition bioweapons consumed its atmosphere. The footage shifted to ground level, showing crystalline beings collapsing in streets, in homes, in schools, gasping, cracking, dying. "We've been watching," Rice said, her voice now overlaying the horrible imagery. "For 40 years, we've been watching." The footage changed again. Different worlds, different species, same outcome. Genocide after genocide, spanning back centuries. The Vrel, the Tanari, the Osperi, the Yintak. Rice named each dying civilization as they appeared. 28 species completely eradicated, hundreds more partially cleansed, trillions of lives extinguished because they did not meet your arbitrary standards for galactic citizenship. These were necessary adjustments, Kaizen declared, mandibles quivering with indignation. Evolutionary management for the greater good. "We've heard your justifications," Rice replied coldly. "Now hear ours." The screen shifted again, showing massive orbital structures hidden in dimensional pockets, impossible to detect by conventional means. Within them were preserved cities filled with beings the Council had presumed extinct. "What is this deception?" hissed the Melithor representative. "This is Haven," Rice answered, "where we've sheltered the survivors of your cleansings, where we've preserved the cultures you attempted to erase." Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the chamber. The Zinthuri representative, silent until now, leaned forward on multiple limbs. "Impossible," they whispered. "The dimensional technology required would be beyond even our capabilities." "Yes," Rice confirmed, "it would be." The implications hung in the air like a blade. Humanity had technology the Coalition didn't understand, couldn't understand. The carefully crafted narrative of human technological inferiority shattered in an instant. "You've been lying," Kaizen realized, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. "We've been surviving," Rice corrected, "adapting, preparing. While appearing to submit to your authority, we've been embedding ourselves into every level of your infrastructure." As if to demonstrate, the environmental systems of the chamber adjusted, temperature dropping, atmospheric composition shifting. Nothing lethal, but an unmistakable demonstration of control. Your ships, your stations, your planetary defense systems, all run on architectures we've helped design. Rice's eyes were hard now. Architectures we can disable with a single command. "This is an act of war," growled the Curvin. "No," Rice replied. "This is an ultimatum." The screens changed again, showing massive fleets of ships unlike any in the Coalition registry, emerging from dimensional pockets throughout Coalition space. For 40 years, you believed humanity was complying with your order, when in reality, we were studying your weaknesses, documenting your crimes, and building the means to stop you. Kaizen's compound eyes reflected the images of the human armada. "What do you want?" he asked, all pretense of superiority gone. "Justice," Rice answered simply, "and insurance that your cleansings never happen again." A new figure appeared on the screens, a human male with dark skin and graying hair, wearing the insignia of Earth's highest military office. "I am Fleet Admiral Okonkwo of the United Earth Defense Force," he stated. "As of this moment, the Coalition Inner Council is relieved of authority. Your military forces are locked down. Your communication networks are under our control. Your crimes have been broadcast to every world in Coalition space." The delegates stared in horror as screens displayed real-time footage from their homeworlds. Massive public gatherings watching the evidence of genocides committed in their names. The outrage was palpable even through the transmission. "You've turned our own people against us," the Dresseri representative whispered. "You did that yourselves," Rice countered. "We merely showed them the truth." Admiral Okonkwo continued, "Earth is implementing immediate protective measures for all species currently designated for cleansing. Coalition military vessels attempting to resist will be disabled." "You cannot control thousands of worlds," Kaizen protested, but his voice lacked conviction. "We don't need to," Rice replied. "The member species of your coalition are doing that for us." Fresh footage showed Coalition military units standing down, civilian governments declaring independence from Council authority, and in some cases, populations actively turning against their own leadership. The coalition as you've known it is over, Okonkwo declared. A new galactic charter will be established, one that protects the rights of all sentient species regardless of technological development. And if we refuse, the Serix representative challenged. You won't have the opportunity, Rise answered. You are being removed from power by your own people. The chamber doors slid open, revealing not the expected coalition security forces, but representatives from dozens of supposedly lesser species, many bearing the marks of previous partial cleansings. Behind them stood Captain Daniels and a squad of human operatives, their weapons lowered but present. You're being detained pending trial for crimes against sentient life, Daniels informed them. You will be judged by a council of your victims. 3 days later, Commander Reyes stood before the massive viewport of Haven Station, watching as shuttles delivered more survivors. These rescued from the Everin system before the Coalition's planned cleansing could begin. Hard to believe it worked, remarked Captain Daniels, joining her at the window. It worked because they believed their own propaganda, Reyes replied. They convinced themselves we were technologically primitive and morally weak. They never imagined we might be patient instead. 40 years is a hell of a long game, Daniels observed. It had to be. We needed time to develop the dimensional technology, to infiltrate their systems, to build our forces without detection. Reyes turned from the viewport. And we needed to save as many as we could along the way. The Coalition member species are in chaos, Daniels reported. Some are calling for trials of their own leaders. Others are demanding reparations for the species that were targeted. And the resistance, minimal. Once the evidence was broadcast, public support for the council collapsed. Hard to defend genocide when faced with the reality of it. A soft chime announced another arrival. Admiral Okonkwo entered, accompanied by representatives from a dozen species. The Neri delegate's crystalline form caught the light, refracting it in patterns of cautious hope. The Transitional Council is ready to begin discussions, Okonkwo announced. They've requested your presence, Commander. Reyes nodded, straightening her uniform. What about Kizant and the others? Secure, Okonkwo assured her. Though I doubt they'll receive much mercy from those they've wronged. Mercy was never the point, Reyes replied. Justice was. As they walked toward the council chambers, a small figure darted from a side corridor. The young Neri child Reyes had met days earlier. She now moved with more confidence, her crystalline skin beginning to regain its luster. Commander Human, the child called, the translation matrix rendering her musical language. Reyes knelt to meet the child's faceted eyes. Hello again. The child extended her crystalline appendages, offering the small disc Reyes had seen before. My heart songs, she explained. I added a new one, about the humans who came when no one else would. Deeply moved, Reyes gently touched the disc. I'm honored. What is your name? Lirin, the child answered. Last daughter of the Neri chorus masters. Well, Lirin, Reyes said softly, you are not the last anymore. Your people will survive. They will sing again. Lirin's crystalline structure vibrated in what the translation matrix identified as joy. Will you teach us human songs too? We will share all our knowledge with you, Reyes promised, and perhaps you can teach us how to create heart songs of our own. As they continued toward the council chamber, Admiral Okonkwo observed, that's what the Coalition never understood about us. What's that? Reyes asked. That our strength wasn't in our technology or our numbers. It was in our capacity to recognize ourselves in others, even when they looked nothing like us. The doors to the council chamber opened, revealing representatives from over 50 species, the saved and the free, gathered to forge a new path forward. Reyes straightened her shoulders and stepped inside, carrying the weight of humanity's long silence and the promise of its thunderous response. The Coalition had mistaken humanity's restraint for weakness, their patience for submission, their silence for acceptance. In doing so, they had failed to understand the fundamental truth that would be their undoing. Sometimes, the most dangerous species are those who watch, wait, and remember. And humanity had remembered everything.